It's very unfortunate that whenever Nigeria is being mentioned anywhere in the world, what comes to people's mind is scammers, criminals, anything bad you can think of. But if I tell you that Nigeria is not even among the top scamming countries in the world, will you be surprised? You might. Alright, after watching this video, you will know the reason why Nigeria as a country is popular with scammers. The truth there is that they are not the highest scamming country. But why is it that they are too popular with that things? Now let's watch the video.
Do you think Nigeria is always associated with fraud?
I think it's an unfortunate sequence of accidents that makes it such that Nigeria is viewed as a jurisdiction that is specially linked to fraud. So if you look at the actual data, globally, Nigeria is not even, I think, in the top 12 or the top 13 countries for internet fraud globally. However, what Nigeria does have that most other countries don't have is cultural tendency to be very loud, right? So when the North Koreans or the Russians or the Americans or the Chinese, who are by far bigger in the global cybercrime space than Nigerians are, when they are doing their scams worth billions of dollars, you don't hear anything about it. They keep everything they do very quiet. They don't drive flashy cars. You don't see them, right? Even if they live ostentatiously, in closed, gated neighborhoods where you can't see them. They don't have Instagram pages.
They keep a low profile.
Exactly. In Nigeria, however, you have a guy like Ramon Abbas, who you might know as Hush Puppy, who does a scam for maybe $10 million, right? Which, I mean, in personal terms, $10 million is a lot of money. But in global terms, it's absolutely nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. But with that $10 million, he buys a Rolls Royce Phantom. He buys a luxury mansion in Dubai. He lives this huge, like, ostentatious Instagram lifestyle until people inevitably start to ask, what does this person do for a living? And then inevitably the answer that comes back is this person is into cybercrime. So when you have 100, 200, 300, 1,000, 2,000 such people who have similar backstories and they're all Nigerians, then obviously what then tends to happen is people now start to associate Nigeria with fraud, with cybercrime. Meanwhile, in actual financial terms, Nigerians are a drop in the bucket. But because culturally, Nigeria is very different to most other African countries in terms of just our sheer loudness. We are very, very, very loud people. I don't think there's any Nigerian you will meet on earth that would deny it. We are very loud people. Culturally, we're not very humble people. We can be quite aggressive, we can be quite overbearing, we can be quite domineering. We always like to have our point of view heard. Sometimes that can be a good thing, but this is one of those instances where it is definitely a minus, because that lack of self-awareness, that constant need to be noticed is what has created this unfortunate idea that Nigerians somehow do more cybercrime than others. Nigerians don't actually do more cybercrime than even Ghanaians. But again, it's just that thing of who makes the most noise.
Here are the list of countries with the highest scammers. When I'm talking about scammers, I mean scammers that stole billions of dollars, not even millions. We have China, we have Pakistan, India, Russia, United States of America, UK, Ukraine, and a lot of them. There are many there. But if you look closely, you discover that Nigeria did not appear on that list. After seeing all these countries on this list, you will now ask yourself this question: why Nigeria is the picture ambassador of scammers? Now, here is the truth. The truth is that Nigerian scammers are too lousy. They are noisemaker. Once they pick $2-3 million, they start making noise on internet space. One of them is this Hush Puppy and Woodbury. Some of you can remember years back when those people were making their money through internet fraud. No one really know what they're doing, but they're all over internet, splashing their money, flaunting their jewelry, flaunting their expensive lifestyle that brings up a lot of questions. That is average life of every Nigerian scammers. And that is why everybody are too curious to know what you are doing that gives you this money. But you see other countries' scammers, they hardly flaunt their wealth. You hardly know that this person has any dime. In fact, you can't even see them on the public space. They are people that stole billions of dollars, but you can't even know that they're worth thousands of dollars. That is why it looks as if Nigeria, as a country, is the country with the highest scammers. But no, they are not even closer to the people on the list. As a Nigeria, you should do better. Let us stop presenting this narrative that we are scammers, while they have the highest scammers behind the closed door. This woman here from Trinda shared her ugly experience with a Nigerian scammer. It's quite unfortunate that she borrowed $12,000 from the bank just to send to a man she met online. Although I blamed her, but when someone is in love, they can do anything. Now, this money she borrowed from the bank and the interest now is now $5,000. Apparently, she's gonna return $18,000 to bank. And where can she get this money? And she's being scammed by a Nigerian scammer. This is the event we are having all over the world.
It's ridiculous the amount of money you've lost. It's ridiculous. I was looking at it. That money is too much.
That's the if I may interject, that's the initial sum. But to that now, interest has been charged and monthly interest. So it's at least about 5,000 more than that, 5 to 6,000 more.
Okay, we're talking about 18,000 to 19
USD.
So, are you still in touch with this guy?
Yes, he is in touch with me very regularly, almost every day. I try not to communicate much, but I keep the lines of communication open with the hope that the police would be able to apprehend him very easily.
So he's on the run?
I don't know. It doesn't seem that way. It doesn't seem that he's on the run because it doesn't seem as though anyone is chasing him.
Okay. All right, Rebon, I'm going to mute my mic. I'm going to listen. We are going to listen.
Well, good morning, Odugu, and thank you again for giving me this opportunity, and thank you for the work that you're doing in terms of being an advocate, a voice, I have to say, for the voiceless. I came into contact with one of your fellow Nigerians towards the end of January through one of those dating platforms, a very popular dating platform where we met in the chat, and then we approached, both of us, we approached the host and indicated that we had an interest for each other towards forming a union that would possibly lead into marriage. So I've been speaking to him since the end of January. So he has made himself very public. He came onto the platform, he introduced himself. According to him, his name is Adenli Ibukin, and he lives in Kwara State. He is, according to him, a 40-year-old divorcee with 2 children, a deceased mother, and he works, according to him again, and all of the information I've been given based on his LinkedIn page, etc., that he works as the assistant chief geologist with the Nigerian Geological Logistics Company in Kwara State. All of this, he provided documentation, letterheads, etc., which I forwarded to you. So we began our communication and we were getting along quite well. And then we began to speak in terms of migration because he had an interest in moving out of Nigeria. As it is normal between persons who have an interest in each other, I encouraged him, based on the conversations we were having, to get further into business where he indicated he had been doing mining based on his niche of work, which was as a geologist, and he felt that that was a good idea. So around early in April, he sent me a copy of a proposal that he was doing. He said it was time to kind of involve me more in his work and, get me more familiar with what he was doing. So I had no objection to that because, you're in this online at the time relationship. I'd never met him physically. But by that time, which was like about 4 months into the relationship, my family had begun to meet his, and I had begun to meet his so-called family. So you've had my children in the US and Canada, etc., meeting him virtually, and, that mutual sharing of information and connections being formed on a deeper level. So he introduced me to this proposal where he had a contract with a Chinese firm to the tune of $150,000 US. And he said he was contracted to extract 2 particular minerals. I can't remember the name. 50 tons of one and 35 tons of the other. I said, okay, that seems fine because, you're looking for opportunities as a young man of 40 years to develop yourself and, just going to the next level and being resourceful and pushing past the barrier of Nigerian being scammers. Because I myself had a great difficulty, Odugu, getting into a relationship with this man, albeit virtually. I said the reputation of Nigerians out there is terrible. I don't think I can do this. But after many months of convincing of, not all Nigerians are scammers and you have industrious Nigerians out there, I said, okay, let's put down that bias. And I'm speaking to myself, put that bias down and look at the man himself, because Nigerians are human beings and Nigerians are men, women needing love and forming connections like everyone else. Okay. So he introduced me to this proposal, and I, just read it and I moved along. And then maybe about a week or so later, maybe a week or two, he showed me what was a copy of a bank deposit to the tune of 30,000 USD, where he said the Chinese would have deposited monies into his account to begin the project. Now, this project was supposed to disperse funds, 20%, 50%, and then 30% in increments like those. 20% at the beginning of at the inception of the program, 50% upon shipment of the items that the Chinese he would have extracted for shipment and for exportation, and 30% upon receipt. So that went how it went. He said he would be away for a couple of days, which he was. We were in communication via text. He showed me pictures of the project, etc. And at the end of the project, I saw a number of persons there. I said, I will send you. No, I offered. I'm being honest. I offered and I said, I will send you some money to feed those persons at the end of the project, because, people who are doing those menial tasks, sometimes they're taken for granted. And when you value people, you generally get the best out of them, no matter what level or what their occupation is. So I said, I'm going to send you money to feed the people properly. Don't just give them a soda and a bun. Tell me what it's going to cost to feed them. He said it would cost roughly around, 150,000 nairas to feed, I think it's like about 15 persons. I said, fine. In the middle of the group, one day he took a picture when he was on the project offsite. I saw a woman carrying stones. I said, who's this lady? He said, she's part of the team. I said, but she's a woman. What is she doing carrying stones? He said, well, that's how it is sometimes. I sent an additional 50,000 nairas, and I said, I'm sending 200,000 nairas. Give the lady 50,000 nairas and tell her to start a business. Whatever business she wants, let her start a business, and the other 150 was supposed to feed these persons. Yes, that's the gentleman in question there. So he took a picture. I said, make sure and take a picture and send it for me, where you would have handed over the monies to the lady. He did that, what appeared to be that. Moving forward, that project took about 3 days, and maybe about 2 days after that, he returned home. He said he was going to the bank to seek further funding to complete the project. Now, I did find it a bit odd. If you're going to do a project, you kind of get all of your monies together and then you go forward. I said, fine. He called me from the bank, which would have been about Wednesday, returned home from the project. I think it was a Friday. And he said that he showed me a letter, sent me a picture as well, a screenshot, where the bank had declined the funding that he requested, stating that he had a loan already and he needed to further service that loan before he could be provided with any further funding. And he said he now has these items, 85 tons of material to ship to the Chinese, and he didn't know what he was going to do because he had invested all of his funds in this particular project. And he had a deadline of, I think it was 2 weeks in order to come up with the funding. I said, okay, so we began talking because he's bringing this thing to me. I said, what are your options? He said, well, he would ask his brother if he can get a small loan. He could probably sell his car, but he was far short of the $22,500 that was needed to ship the items. So we began, well, at least I thought I was brainstorming with him. We began brainstorming in terms of options and possibilities to get these items shipped. I said, why don't you approach the firm and indicate to them what your present predicament is? And they can possibly, because it's their 30,000 that they would have put out and their items on the port there, they could probably advance the shipment to you and you just have a drawdown on what they're owing. Okay, so you would have a smaller figure that they would be owing because they would deduct that from your arrears. He said, okay. He showed me an email later that day where he had indicated to them that he had done this, and they told him that he would either face litigation because they were not prepared to change the terms and conditions of the contract in order to advance any further funding. So in other words, we'll go find the money, ship it, or we're coming after you to get back our monies. So again, we continue to brainstorm. I said, do you have any friends, any relatives? I said, because what was happening before I came on the picture? You must know persons. But I understood the sum you're talking about when you convert USD to Nairas. So I said, okay, let me see how I can assist you. I said, I certainly cannot help with 22,500 USD. I said, I'm going to take, because I have my loans. This is what I'm saying to him. I said, I have my loans. I can take a loan via my credit card at the time I was in the United Arab Emirates. I said, I can take a loan via my credit card for the tune of about $12,000 and assist you with that. I said, however, credit card loans are different kinds of loans. I called my banker and he said, okay, I'll do it for you. And he forwarded 12,000 USD to me. I transferred. I said, well, before I did that, I said, you told me, based on the contract that you shared with me in writing, that in 2 weeks' time, at the end of April, when you ship the items, you would be receiving 50% of the 152,000 contracted sum. He said yes. I did a bank-to-bank transfer from my bank in ADCB at Abu Dhabi Commercial Bank to his bank, GT Bank, in Nigeria for 12,000 USD. He received the sum. The following day, he was unreachable. He said he was really busy trying to consolidate and pay all the shipping and all that kind of good stuff. So everything went along pretty okay, and then we started talking about meeting now in person. So he showed me an airline ticket where he booked a ticket now to come to Dubai, coming first week in June, because it was supposed to be Eid al-Fitr, getting that short holiday. So we mutually agreed that was a good time. But it's rather ironic that the ticket was booked after I sent the money for shipping. When the 28th of August came, I'm very anxious waiting to pay off my credit card bill. He showed me an email where the Chinese said that they would not be paying upon shipment. They're going to be paying upon receipt of the items now, because the Chinese policy has changed governmental policy where they're looking at money laundering and lots of different things was in that email. I said, well, what is my situation now? 2 weeks is now turning into possibly 2 months to ship these things to Shanghai. He said, well, there's nothing that he can do and that kind of thing. So I said, okay, let's see what can happen here. So I took a second job because I'm a school teacher. So I took a second part-time job in order to try to service this bill. But it really wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere in terms of the remuneration I was getting from my second job to address this arrears. He said he was doing extra work in the field on Saturdays to accommodate making some sort of payment. I got a bank deposit of 250 USD, but really it came from a woman in the UAE, because I saw a bank-to-bank deposit of 915 dirhams coming into my account. Now, prior to that, I started feeling something is just, like something is itching under your skin. Something isn't feeling right here, but I'm already inside. I asked nothing about the lady. What I did is I pulled the airline ticket and I called the airline. And I don't want to call the name of the airline because the girl went over the edge to kind of help me out. I said, tell me about this ticket. She said, yes, the ticket is authentic, but the ticket has been cancelled and a refund has been issued. I said, okay. I said nothing about that either. So I went back to him and I said, okay, this is what is happening. So now I'm beginning to reel back. I'm stepping back because I just can't deal with the lies and the treachery and this whole thing that is facing me.
I don't know how this may sound, but I have to say it. But number one, your money is gone. I can tell you that your money is gone. But
and
that
even
doesn't
up to
mean
yesterday, he and his sister sending me texts to tell me that he's going to repay me. Just nonsense. It's aggravating. It's nauseating to listen to the lies over and over. Money is gone. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I want to be brutally honest with you. Your money is gone. And any of them telling you they will repay you, it's just a tactic for you not to speak about it. They're just going to drag it. For someone who owes you about $18,000 and he's struggling to pay you 250 out of it, that money is gone.
As a Nigeria, please try and leave a good example. We are on the country's list as a people with bad image. Please try and be a good ambassador wherever you find yourself. These are the reasons why our passport cannot travel to anywhere, and we are the cause. As a Nigerian citizen, be a good example. Alright guys, if you have watched up to this moment, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you guys on our next video. Bye-bye.